We are live on YouTube. Woo! Okay,
Great.
so here we are. This is really exciting news because I'm here with Thomas Deschutter and been live on, aha. See, I was so fired up because I've been really looking forward to this conversation, but for some reason we are unable to go live on Facebook right now, which is such a disappointment. However, my team is awesome. And they're going to take the live stream from YouTube and put it onto Facebook. We just won't be able to do the watch parties, I don't think, which is disappointing. But you know what?
Yeah.
We just might have to have you back, man, because you and I are going to have too much good stuff to talk about, right?
Yes, indeed. And it's technology is funny to me how this stuff kind of happens, and then it's like everything that's going on right now, you can get triggered by it and get all like crazy in your head and run all these scenarios, and then later you might look back and go, oh, that actually worked out pretty well.
Totally.
Right. So for me, I could be like, oh, Amber, I've taken time out of my day to be on this with you and it's not working and da 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 da. And then you're like, well, maybe we'll just have to do it again. So now I have a second opportunity to hang out with you and jam, and right? Like, so it's all how we frame stuff when it happens. We have the power to reframe things as they come at us.
100%. And I'm sitting here in this moment, like I could be freaking out, like, oh, this is such a bad first impression, or what's going to happen in the series itself. And I could be like really panicked about the technology not working. And instead, we were just having a casual conversation. Cool. Like, okay, that didn't work. That didn't work. That didn't work.
Yeah.
That didn't work. But now here we are, and it's fine. Like, yesterday I was doing a live panel with John Berghoff, and he came on about 5 minutes late. And so kind of behind the camera, I'm like, John, where are you? And here on camera, I chose that as an opportunity to share a story about what you do when like you're live streaming and something goes wrong. And I actually had a really great story of a webinar that I was running live. That was this big beta launch. I had lots of people on the line. The technology failed me at the most critical time. And I just rolled with it. And I said, guys, this is what you do when you're live in an important moment. You got to stay calm. Here's how you get through it. Afterward, I had a 74% close on a high ticket item, which, by the way, on webinars, you're usually getting like a 30% close, maybe 40 if you're really good. So 74 was outrageous, especially on a high ticket offer. And afterward, flood of emails, people saying, thank you for showing me how to react in a moment like that. That was amazing.
Wow.
And it was cool. So that stuck with me. Like, there's no need to panic. Just pivot. It's okay. Like, it's all going to work out.
Yeah, and you just reminded me the other day we were talking before this that you saw my Sermon on the Mount, as
yes,
a few of my friends have called it, in a joking manner, of course. And something I talked about was the Beatitudes, and I'm not going to go into the Beatitudes, but what I took from that was we have an attitude about who we're being, and in any moment we get to choose who we're being. And clearly, although under the surface you may have been sweating and panicking, who you chose to be in that moment allowed others to see what was possible for them, that I could do that too. Right. And that's that. I love the creative world. Absolutely, to me, creativity is everything that drives us forward.
agreed.
And unfortunately, right now, I think we're in this situation because we've been in the competitive plane for too long. And so much of the world is competing for everything and resources and who gets more at the end of the day, when we're not relying on our creativity and our flow and our desire to be with one another and be connected.
Yeah, I know. That's the biggest silver lining of all of this, is that we are all forced to, first of all, slow down. And I know that a lot of people have been begging the universe for an opportunity to slow down the acceleration. Technology swooped in and everything was like instant Google answers, instant fast food, instant food delivery, instant. And so You know, man, when I started my business back in 2007, I used to respond to people on email within about 24 hours. And people's minds were blown that I responded that fast. And I'm thinking, like, what's the big deal? And now, if you don't respond to an email within 2 to 4 hours, did you get my email? I'm really concerned you didn't get my email. And it's like the world was just accelerated at a pace that humans honestly couldn't keep up. Like we were self-destructing. You saw the rise of like, anti like an inflammation, right? So
Yeah.
chronic diseases that were coming from stress on the nervous system, and we're wondering like, where is this coming from? All the stress, man. We can't keep that pace. So now this is slowing us back down. It's allowing us to connect more, which is my message. And I'm really happy to have you on, especially because your business is all about conscious investing. Dude was a rock star before this, by the way. And so now he's talking about conscious investing. He has an amazing podcast where he's bringing on different people, where he's doing these real-time kind of discussion-based interviews, which I really appreciate. So a lot more discussion, more communication. And you are also in the profit first world. And we were laughing before we went live that we both know Mike Michalowicz, yet was connected from Kate Mooker, Kate and Dr. Suki Mooker. Kate was my first client ever in my
Wow.
business. So that's how far she and I go back. So she'll always have a good place in my heart. So Thomas, tell me more about like what you're seeing and feeling based on your business, your community. What's the conversation? What's in your head right now?
Yeah, thank you. Uh, when I started in the financial industry 20 years ago, and I was not what I would call awake or conscious. It was about money,
Mm.
right? It was about having a job. It was about making money. I saw this opportunity that I could, I'm an honest guy. I could probably do a good thing for people, and we'll grow a business and we'll invest people's money. And it was all very return oriented and
Mm.
return just in the space of money.
Mm.
Then I went through, and this was right around the tech wreck. So I had lived through
Okay.
the technology disaster of the stock market. So 2001, and then the 2008 crisis came. And coming out of the 2008 crisis, I was really in this place of, if I just do the same thing again for people, isn't that the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over again and
Ah,
expecting a different result?
yes.
Like, and so I opened myself up, and keep in mind, I still wasn't practicing really any spiritual connection. I was a Star Wars, guy. It's either the dark force or the good force. And I was, on the force side, not the dark side. Uh, and so I kept asking though, like, what can I be doing different? And I read this book called Becoming Your Own Banker.
Oh.
Exactly. And it was this theory that you could take properly structured life insurance and turn it into your own banking system. That's not the big aha for me.
Okay.
The big aha was going down the rabbit hole of how money works, how it's created. What is the Federal Reserve? What is the Bank of International Settlements? How does all of this gear and mechanism stuff behind the scene work? And that's when I realized that it's just a game. It's the game of money, and there's a way to win it, but the only way you can win at a game is you need to know the rules, right? If you
Mm.
don't know the rules, you can't play inside the game. And then that just moved me, as I moved in that stratosphere, I began to meet people that were aligned with a different way of thinking about the world. And then my spiritual connection came in, and I had this epiphany that there must be a way to join spiritual practices and a mindset of abundance and life in all areas, because I look at wealth as all areas, not just money, and the game of money together, where people aren't victimized. And that spawned Bloom Strategies. I have a
Um,
podcast, Conscious Cash, and I also do a program called Conscious Investing.
How much do
And
you love this guy right now? Gosh, I want everybody to start a Facebook watch party, even though you can't. So you're going to have to share this YouTube video everywhere, because we are going to dig into his mindset even deeper. And this is a really important conversation we're having right now. So what advice are you giving to your clients? What are they coming to you with, or just even podcast comments, or just colleagues coming in? What's the conversation?
yeah, so most of my experience on the conscious cash side is that people feel like money is this thing out there and they don't have any control. It's kind of like life is just lifing me, money is just moneying them, and they don't have a way to grasp how it works. And what I'm talking about is, I know many people that just wouldn't even open their statements. Like there's this fear of money and not knowing how it works. And it's interesting to me, if you go back to grade school, were you ever talked to in grade school about a mortgage, about how it works, about how debt
Okay,
works?
you're going to go there because I feel like I was not prepared for adulthood. I went to one of the top private schools in Arizona, grades 6 through 12. I went out on my own. I knew freaking nothing about how the real world works. And I got pissed off there for a while. Like, guys, what are we teaching in school?
Yeah. And so,
Okay, you hit my hot button, Thomas.
yeah.
Good job.
So, well, one of the things I kind of say is like, it's the most important decisions we're going to make of like indebting ourselves for the next 30 years of our life. And we don't know really anything about the process, which is crazy to me. And I, in a comic way, I say, but we need to know how to find the noun. Like that's, I've got my kids right now, they're working on these algebraic theories in high school that even in my
Right?
business, I don't even use. And so what I'm trying to tell people now, or what my message is to clients, is first of all, let's not panic. We've been in these cycles before. Fortunately, we were, emphasizing a lower risk portfolio. Our money manager that we work with here in Canada was largely in cash. And so at the end of the day, I mean, I just had a client the other day say to us, "Thank you for saving me from myself."
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Yes.
Right.
That's really good. I love
But
that.
we were taking heat when the returns weren't matching the market. See, when we were on the side of caution, we were getting lambasted for not knowing what we're doing and not being, in the market and making all of this money. And now we look like geniuses, even though we're not. We were just being prudent. So
Mm,
what I like to talk about is aligning your money with your values.
okay.
Everything we do with our dollars is a vote. And the most powerful voting we have is voting with our dollars. Yes, we can go out on election day and mark the ballot. Absolutely. But every day when we spend money, we tell the world what we truly support. Because that is where money flows, is where all activity goes, essentially. So if we're spending money on stuff that we're not truly aligned with, if we're investing money in companies that we're not truly aligned with, there is a disconnect there between
Mm,
who we are and what we're doing with money. And money is energy.
yes.
And it's
Agreed.
connected to us because how much of our time do we spend in the process or the activity of bringing in capital so that we can feed our families, put a roof over their heads? So
Right.
it is a personal thing, and it needs to be treated just as importantly as what we're going to let our kids watch on television.
Yes, I agree. Or the food we put in our bodies, how we
Yes.
treat other people, everything.
Right. So in my view, you're always voting with your dollars, right? And you're always telling the world what I'm a fan of. So if you're putting money into companies that you don't really line up with, you're just giving them fuel to keep doing what they're doing. And I had a client say to me, "What I want to do," sorry, he said to me, "I want to see my money go towards things I want to see more of in the world, and I want to see my money less into things I want to see less of in the world."
Hmm. That is so great. I love that. Dang it, guys, I need you to share if you're not already sharing. This is the kind of conversation that I feel like I wish the whole world were tuning in right now. Thank you for saying that. You mentioned some of these money rules. Okay, so I'm trying to put myself in a position right now of somebody who is looking at the state of the world. They're probably less concerned about the virus. They're more concerned about the economic collapse. They're losing their jobs. Restaurants are shutting down. Production is shutting down for a period of time. And I think that people are having an even bigger, like, oh man, moment, like, whoa. And the next trigger is I need as much cash on hand as possible to get my family or myself or my business or my team or my community, whatever level, through this. And what can we tell them about about that moment, either that energy that they're putting on it, or how they can actually start leveraging any investments? Like, what advice can we give people around that moment?
Yeah. Well, first of all, unfortunately, we are where we are, and we have to deal with whatever has been set up in our past that has brought us to this moment. There's nothing we can do to change it. And I don't have any magic formulas for people to get through whatever crisis on a money or a cash mechanism that they're going through. Hopefully, the powers that be will find a way to distribute an equal amount of capital with all of these programs that they're going to inject that get down to the common person, not just to corporations and others that will put a stopgap and hold on to it. Like, hopefully that will happen. However, we can, and this is where more of my spiritual context will come in terms of how to, at some point we have to stop the action of where we are. And this is one of my principles, is know what is so. You need to stop and know exactly where you're at and where you are within yourself, and begin a process of healing the conversation that's going inside of ourselves. Because I've been here myself. I was a musician. I've lived on $5 a day. I have struggled with money. My parents lost their business when I was 14 years old. I've gone through some stuff around money with trauma. And what I have realized is that the only thing I can do is stop myself where I am, acknowledge that how do I feel in this moment? What are the triggers that are going on? And then start to repair myself first. And everything works from the inside out. We need to take a step back and start by getting ourselves grounded in a place where we can move forward powerfully. And what you can't do is imagine what the future will look like, especially if it's one that the media has printing in the headlines, because they don't know any more than we do what's going to happen. It's speculation, right? There could be a massive recession for years. Absolutely. And there might not be.
Yep.
Right? There might be things that happen in the world that we can't even imagine, because people like you and so many others that we know are putting out this vibe of, we're going to get through this. And that's where magic happens, if you will. That's where great miracles can come into being. And suddenly things start to show up in a way that you could never have imagined they showed up. So we need to stop where we are and start repairing our own thinking. Because what happens in this situation, Amber, is people start thinking, I shouldn't have done that. How was I so stupid? I can't believe I got caught off guard. I knew I should have done. And that starts going around, and all you're doing is beating yourself up and limiting your ability to actually have great ideas come in that can move you forward.
Amen to that. I mean, you're literally draining your life energy, and you're choosing to spend it by draining and making it worse, right? So what I am doing is, I think I'm telling people, number one, first step is awareness.
Mhm.
And look, Thomas and I are both human. We are not exempt from any of this, right? So I have had my moments of like panic. Mine, I've been telling people openly, I believe in transparency. My panic, oh shit moment happened 2 nights ago when I didn't know if my husband, who's a firefighter, was going to come home that morning and help me with our 3-year-old who
Mm.
just got sick and is now being homeschooled. I had 9 calls scheduled that day, including the live streams. And just before I went to bed, the panic button kicked in. And so I think the first step is awareness. And in that moment, I could feel the constriction in my breath. I could feel my mind start to race. I could feel my heart beating a little bit more. And thank goodness I have trained myself to be alert to those signs. That's your body saying, something is wrong. Please pay attention and change gears. Hello, mind. And so then I think the faster you can have that awareness, then take immediate action. Take immediate action. What I did is I pulled out an app, Calm, turned on like this meditative sound and started talking to myself through it. Amber, calm your breath, breathe in. And actually, good time to say a quick little exercise that I did. In my mind, I would say, breathe in, calm, breathe out, panic, breathe in, light. And I could feel light going into my whole being. Breathe out, darkness. And I could feel, it was like I could visualize this dark exhaust almost coming out of my mouth. And just this simple, I was just telling myself, breathe in, breathe out. And I swear within no time at all, not only am I calm, but then I started to think about something that was more productive. Like, okay, here's the most important thing I can do next. This is what I'm going to do tomorrow. This is what I want to think. This is who I want to be in this moment. I had a great deep sleep after that. I felt restored the next day and I had a rocking day yesterday. Anyway, I'm trying to give some real practical advice for people that anybody can do to reframe, be aware, reframe, pivot, connect. So anyway, you triggered that in me, Thomas. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, and that was beautiful. And I'll just back that up with the idea is that when you stop and when you get yourself calmed down, you know, I believe we're all created beings and we all are creative beings. You know, no matter what it is, we create our reality through thinking up here. We have a mind, we have a body, and we have spirit, and all three need to be nurtured and cared for. When you calmed yourself down and started to just breathe and get centered again, you opened up the possibility for new ideas to come into play that you could latch onto as a beacon of hope or light for yourself to move forward into, which then can propel you into action.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I would say another tool that I like to use is something called denials and affirmations. And so a denial and an affirmation is to very simply recognize the state I'm in. So you want to know it. Like, I don't believe in just trying to be positive and putting a rose garden over top of a mud pie, right? You,
Agreed. It has to be
you,
authentic.
you need to know exactly what's going on. So you
Yeah.
recognize it.
Yep.
So, you know,
Yep.
if I'm having a state of panic over, let's say, oh my gosh, I've missed, 10 phone calls today to clients that I was supposed to make and, right?
Totally. Yep.
I could stop the action and go, look, I'm having this feeling right now that I'm a terrible person. I can't do my job properly. People are going to dislike me. I've upset all these people. The whole story will be there. I can look at it and say, you know what? I get it, but I'm not that. I am a powerful, honest, open human being, and I can go to these people and have a conversation now. Right. And you deny the thoughts, the act, all the stuff that's going on. You recognize it, you deny it, and you affirm something better for yourself that you can move or step into.
Yeah. And I just to carry that one step further, I think it's important to also recognize that we're all human. We are all in the
Yeah.
same boat right now. And that is a beautiful thing, right?
Mhm.
So if you get to that point, it's 8 o'clock at night and you realize you didn't call those clients back, send them an email and say, you know what? I am really sorry that that happened today. I meant to call you. And I really hope that you understand you are a top priority to me. I have cleared my schedule for tomorrow. Let me know when is your next availability. Something we touched on yesterday is that one of the things that I personally do that's important to me, and it has been for 12 years, is I want each client to feel as if they are my only client. So what I'm
Mm.
not doing is saying, I'm sorry, I'm so busy and crazy and there's all this stuff going on and I was working on other people's stuff so I couldn't get to yours. Like, no, you don't want to do that. But if you can just be open and honest that, you know what, I had some things come up today that I wasn't expecting, but you are a priority to me. So thank
Yeah.
you in advance for your understanding. I'm ready to take this next action now. So just a little thing, but that might seem obvious to some people. It's absolutely not obvious to a lot of people. And so part of this series is trying to give you those little cues and thought leadership to really get you to start thinking this way on your own, because it's going to help you weather this season.
Yeah. I actually did a live Facebook this morning, and one of the things I talked about was just looking at my own kids and how when they're in absolute creative flow, I have twin teenage daughters, and
Oh,
I know, and people then go, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that."
I bet they're amazing though. Come
They're,
on.
yeah, no, no, I am so blessed
Yeah, I
with
bet.
the
How
girls.
did
I had
they come on?
the three gals I have in my life that are the prominent three gals in my life. I couldn't be more happy. But when I see them and they're in their element and being creative and really creating their own reality, there's nothing more beautiful, right? They're not thinking about all the stuff that I might be thinking about, like, oh, mortgage payment or the investment market, the markets are going down, or, I just had 10 clients, walk out whatever is the story is, they don't have that. And they're
Mhm.
just doing their la la la, chasing a butterfly in the backyard or whatever.
Totally.
It's
Isn't
like
that
that.
beautiful?
If we can capture that for ourselves, which we
I hear
still
you.
can, we are that, then that's when we can really live our lives. And I know, I don't want to just sit here and be like, oh, you could be so wonderful. I get
Yeah.
that what's going on in the world is really, really difficult. And I'll tell you, I have my own fear. I mean, I've seen the market fall 30%, right? People might start saying, hey, we need all of our money because we lost our job. Like, all my entire business could really deteriorate pretty quickly before my eyes in a lot of ways. So I could go there and I could live in a state of, oh my God, it's gonna, and I could also just go, you know what, I've made it this far in life, I've
Mm.
always found a way through, and I will continue to just be in the moment and just follow my spirit to lead me to the next
Yeah.
thing that speaks to me.
And I think something that's important right now is looking at your business the way it was even 2 weeks ago and thinking that was a different time. That business worked during that time. So what I'm doing is almost wiping some of that slate clean and thinking, okay, what does the business need to be today in this climate? What's the messaging? Kate Erickson from Entrepreneur on Fire came on just before you, and she was saying that a really good aha moment that she had recently was to update messaging to speak to where people are right now, as opposed to even a couple of weeks ago. And I said, that's crazy, because I went onto my website this morning and I thought, wow, this message is off. It's off. This is not going to resonate with anybody. And so I
Mm,
made a few tweaks to speak to where people are today, and knowing I'll change it again in whatever time period when things start to shift, right? So part of it is you have to just be quick on your feet based on the climate right now. And I also said, like, if you don't know what's going on in your clients' minds, you've got to ask them, create a forum, create an opportunity for them to express themselves. But, like you're saying in your business, Thomas, business owners should be thinking, what do my clients need now? What solutions can I provide them right now? Maybe there's a virtual workshop I could throw out, and I'll say it's 2 days from now. And between now and then, I'm going to figure out how to do a virtual workshop, right? So this is not a time to make things perfect and have like the perfect launch timeline. No, I got the idea for Elevate series. Boom, invite people. I'll figure it out as I go. And every single day I've been quick. I've been nimble. I've been just making things happen. I wasn't prepared for this either. So I think that's,
What?
we're
You didn't
touching on
know?
something really important. Huh?
You didn't know this was coming?
No, I'm just kidding.
You're,
No.
oh, you're one of the insiders, right?
Hardly. I made a joke earlier on that like I kind of have blinders on to the world in some ways to protect my energy and my joy, because a lot of big influential global leaders rely on me to recharge them so that they can do their best job in the world. So I have to very much protect my energy. Therefore, I don't buy into like a lot of the news and the scarcity and the fear that's out there. So my husband and my father have to tell me what's going on in the world because they know how to deliver the information.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. You know, what you just said is great, because, you know, sometimes I can go and tell me if this is true for you. Sometimes I go to the place like, well, it's my world, because I make it all up, right? Like I
Totally.
truly believe that my perception of everything out there is just, I made it all up anyhow. So it's my world.
Yeah.
And in the back of my head for about the last year, my wife and I have been talking about me transitioning to more of the conscious cash, conscious investing conversation, and really leading more with spirit and not so much money. And how does that look if we do that? And we've also been talking about starting an online ministry as I train to become a minister. And so then all of this has happened, right? And now this Sunday, the Unity Center I'm with here in Nanaimo, we're not going to have service. We're going to do it online, and we haven't done that before. So I will be now actually starting an online ministry this Sunday here in Nanaimo with Unity.
Yep.
And I'm now seeing how the conversation I've been working up to is so relevant going forward. Like it's so relevant. And so in the back, this is my question. Sorry for that. The back of my head is like,
yeah.
the back of my head is like, oh, all of this has happened to just push me into what I'm supposed to be doing.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, what's interesting, kind of the way I'm taking that is I'm working on this book. And this book is deeply needed in the planet. It's deeply personal to me. It's meaningful. And therefore it's a little scary because my work up to this point has been, hire me. I will build your website. Hire me. I will help you with your online marketing. Hire me. I will help you with your book launch. And then I'll teach you how to do those things. Whereas this book isn't how to do, it's how to think. And it's all about connection. And so the working title of the book is Elevate Every Experience, Develop Personal Connection to Scale Your Influence. And so this book that I'm in the middle of writing, I have a writing partner named Katie, and we're going back and forth and developing out the chapters. Like it has nothing really to do at all, like with what my business is. And so it's been kind of this weird process of like, wow, is this the right move? And then COVID happens, the economic shifts happen. And I'm thinking, gosh, this book is more important now than ever before. Like, how can we connect with people, make a bigger impact, and then grow the business from there? And so to your point, I am looking at like, wow, this is really pointing me in the direction I'm supposed to be in anyway. And it's beautiful. And that is life. It's unpredictable. It changes constantly on the fly. You think you're happily married one day, the next day you're getting divorced. You know, something shifts with kids or health or finances or something personal, something external. This is what nature teaches us. Yesterday it was 70 degrees and gorgeous. Today, snowing 8 inches. Nature teaches us this. If we just open our eyes, look to nature for the answer. That's what I say.
Yeah, and you have to approach these things with no attachment, right? Like, we don't know how
That's the
things are going to
hard
go.
part.
Yeah, it's like we get so attached to it all looking a certain way that, when it doesn't show up that way, we're like frustrated, as opposed to, I'll go to these things and greater shall you do, from a wise teacher 2000 years ago,
Mhm.
and having and just allowing life to unfold for you, and being ready to accept with open arms the amount of abundance that could show up, and not limiting that, because the plan, not that there's, and I don't mean plan like there's somebody writing down how your life is going to go, but
Yeah.
the plan of the life wants more life. That's what it wants. It always wants to push the envelope going forward of being more and more life. If you look at nature, that's how it works. The stuff that is able to create more life and more life ends up moving forward, and the stuff that isn't gets dropped off in that kind of capacity. So you want to just be open enough that far better than what you could ever have imagined shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of want to take it back to your question earlier about what can people do now. And there's this great book that has become a daily listen in my life, and it's called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles.
Wattles.
Yes, with 2 T's.
I kind of wish I had that last name. That's a really cool last name.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's what now I'm going, is it D's or T's? It doesn't matter. You'll find just The Science of Getting Rich, written in 1910. And it's all about getting into the creative and off the competitive plane. But,
Great.
he starts off with, there is this thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which in its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe. And we have the ability to go into that thinking stuff and create. That's where all things are created from.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Everything comes from that source energy of creation, of somebody had a thought,
Yep.
they get inspired, and then they step into action.
The action is key.
Oh,
You have to have the action. That's a really important ingredient, right?
Yeah. And then there's a guy named Eric Butterworth that said, the universe doesn't give us what we want, it gives us what we expect. So if up here you're like, oh yeah, my life's going to be wonderful, it's all going to work out, it's great, great, great. But down here in the belly, you're actually thinking, I don't know if that's true. It's probably not.
Me.
Yeah. Guess what? We actually get what we expect. So here's a tool from The Science of Getting Rich to go back to your question of what can people do today? So let's say things aren't working out that well. We can still take a moment to be grateful.
Yes.
There are still things in our lives that we can be grateful for, whether it's just human connection, whether it's the one person that loves you, whatever it is, you can take a moment to be grateful. And when we begin to have gratitude, and gratitude is in 2 things, what we have today and what we want coming into our lives. So I'm already grateful for the opportunities that are going to be coming into my life in the future. I'm already grateful for them as if they're already happened,
too.
right?
You're stealing my mindset. I love it. Yes,
Right.
I'm already grateful.
Right. So as you build that gratitude, you actually begin to build faith. And you
100%.
begin to build faith within that, oh, this could happen. Because your self-conversation is starting to imagine your life in a different way and in the way that you want it to be. So you're actually selling yourself on it, right? Is really what's going on inside of the head.
Building
And
your
as that
confidence.
faith,
Yeah.
what's that?
Building your confidence, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And as that faith builds, you then start to expect it wholeheartedly, because you've done so much work of being grateful that you've built the faith that you fully expect that this is how your life will unfold. And the people that I've had on my podcast that I've spoken to that have come from nowhere to have amazing lives, and I'm not talking about necessarily financial, because it's not all about money. They've had amazing lives and had amazing impact in the world. They've all gone through stuff. And they've all had these moments when life did not look like a bowl of cherries. But what I've learned from all of them is inside is a gratitude for everything that they are and everything that's coming. They have faith in themselves, and they expect that things are going to be the way they want them to.
That's
So
beautiful.
I've
That, I
seen the
mean, that's
science
some of
work.
the best advice given on this series to date, in my mind.
Well, thank
There's
you.
been a lot of mind-blowing wisdom, truly, that has come out of this series so far. But at its most raw core form, like its essence, the wisdom that you are sharing right now, it takes a long time to really adopt that. I know it did for me. I share with people a rock bottom story. When I was 16 years old, I was a very different person than you see today. And so it probably took me a good 10 years, honestly, slow learner, of like experience by experience, lesson by lesson, moment by moment, decision by decision. And over such a period of time, of course, I understood a low level basic concept of it early on, and I could see measurable results. But now, fast forward even 10 years, it's like, this is what's possible. And then fast forward another 10 years, and I'm like, whoa, like this is what's possible. And honestly, I am loving aging because it's like it just keeps getting better and better and better. And we're talking about going through 9/11. We're talking about the 2008 recession. We've had traumatic, horrible experiences in the economy and in the world so far, just those two to name a few. We're going to get through this one too. But the learning, the innovation, the creativity, the relationships, the way that we're going to be better parents through this. We're going to be better relationship partners and business owners. We're going to finally freaking take care of our earth again. It's like there is so much good that's going to come out of this horrible moment. So you just
Yeah.
have to kind of remember that, I think.
Yeah.
Well, Thomas, if we had some parting words, we were supposed to only talk for 30 minutes. You've been
Yeah.
amazing by donating more of your time. To everybody that's listening, please share this episode, get the word out about this series. And also, we encourage you to donate any spare supplies, food, clothing, money, whatever that is for you, to COVID relief and economic relief organizations out in the world right now. We've got to give back and help people right now more than ever. So Thomas, in closing, is there anything else that you feel called to share? Any last wisdom, action items, whatever's in your heart?
Yeah, I think, how much time do we have? Like, do we have a couple minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, there's a new thought movement out there that was started by a number of speakers and a number of amazing people back in the early 1900s. There's a story of Myrtle Fillmore, who is the co-founder of Unity Spiritual Center, and her husband, Charles Fillmore, is the other co-founder. Myrtle in the late 1890s had tuberculosis. Very bad. She was in her 40s. That was pretty much a death sentence in
Yeah, no,
1890 if you had TB.
of course.
She had this epiphany one day that an earthworm only has the intelligence to create the earthworm. That's it. That's the level of intelligence that it has. But she has this intelligence that created all of this body, this thinking, this spiritual connection. Like, that's an amazing intelligence. And then she realized that she had been talking to her body in a very negative way. Like, I'm sickly. She believed what people told her about herself, that she was sick, she wasn't going to live, et cetera, et cetera. And she decided that what she would do is turn it around. And she went on a path of, first of all, asking forgiveness from all of her body parts. And
Amen
then
to that right there. Yes, sir.
And
Nailed
then
it. Love
she
it.
honored them with how great they are,
Yep.
right? Like, that was her process. And she
Yep.
did this daily. She lived into her late 80s and completely cured herself of tuberculosis. Now, the reason Unity got started was because her and Charles had proven, because back then a doctor showed up with a little black bag,
Totally.
a
Yeah.
saw, some leeches, and a
Yeah.
hammer, right? And it's like, we're going to go to work.
Yeah. No kidding. Oh my gosh.
If we can't suck the poison out with the leech, we're cutting it off, man. Like,
Yeah, that's what happened.
so people back then were open to anybody who had a solution. And they saw that she had cured herself, that her life was changing. And so people started to go to Charles and Myrtle and ask, what did you do? And they began to teach their understanding, this wisdom of how we can have gratitude and how we have the power within ourselves to actually heal whatever is going on in our world, personally and outside of us, right? And one of the key tenets of that is truth, forgiveness, and love. Know the truth of who you are, be ready to forgive yourself and everybody else. And through that process, you will create self-love that will then go out to others, because love your neighbor as yourself. And if you don't love yourself, it's pretty hard to love your neighbor. And I guess that's it.
And that's what I so deeply appreciate and value about you, Thomas, is that I feel like in such alignment with your core belief system and just who you are, your very nature. And I just, gosh, it's honestly been such a pleasure. I'm so grateful for this time and just your wisdom. And I'm so giddy. I'm excited about your life path and where this is all leading you. I believe it's going to be something pretty magnificent. And just to be a part of your journey it's meaningful. It's special. So thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom and for sharing so openly. It's been really nice.
Yeah. And thank you for having me on. And, for those that don't know, we didn't know each other before this
Not at all.
40 minutes that we just spent together.
Yeah.
And I really look forward, Amber, to a continued growing relationship between us of how we can serve the world and allow people to see what's possible for themselves. Because it's not about changing people. People need to see what's possible for themselves. And that's what the gift is that we can bring them, is the opportunity, to be a light on the hill that shines, that people can go, oh, this is a path for me to walk, that I can have the life I want.
Exactly. And that is why I am desperate for people's help in getting the message out about this series, because we're all donating our time right now. Like we could be doing other things. We could be serving clients. We could be marketing or selling or giving back in other ways, of course, but we are all coming together. It's a conscious choice to lead, to serve, to share what's in our hearts and in our minds. And it would just be a shame if more people didn't get access to this information instead of what's actually out there in the world right now. And that can only happen through sharing. So thank you for everybody who takes that seriously. And you can catch all of our replays on the NG Facebook page. I'm also streaming to YouTube as a backup. Thank you, YouTube, for working today when Facebook didn't. And we will actually be coming back live here very soon. We're having a panel with Carolyn Soldo and Jordan Hill as well. So it's going to be an amazing, very different conversation about systems and scaling and business and tools and like what's happening in the online world right now. But you filled a very important need, a space in terms of conscious mindset and how people can have a different relationship with their money and therefore their future, security and what to do from here. So Thomas, thanks again. You're the man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Amber. And of course, we will share this wholeheartedly. And I'll probably join you on your next panel, because it's like,
Great.
oh, I could probably learn some stuff there for me going forward. So I love it. Thank you for the work you're doing.
It's going to be amazing. All right, guys, we'll see you again soon.
Bye all.